Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be making a dessert recipe that is so easy and it comes out fantastic every time. Let me show you what it is. It's going to be an apple tart. Now, I want to show you the items that you're going to need to make this tart. First of all, you're going to start with a tart pan. You're going to need a skillet to cook your apples. I'm going to use pre-rolled pie crust. You can make your own if you want, but this comes out just as good. You're going to need a peeler to peel your apples. You're going to need a tablespoon, 3/4 cup measuring cup. So aside from the pie crust, what goes in this? The main ingredients, apples. I like to use red and green apples. You could leave the skin on if you wanted to. However, I like to peel the skin off. It looks prettier when you leave the skin on, so you'll see that in photographs when a lot of people put up their recipe. But for the average person eating it, they're not expecting skin in the tart. So I peel it off. It's not as pretty, but it tastes better. All right, other ingredients that you're going to need. Some brown sugar. That's the 3/4 cup measure. So we're going to get that together. You're also going to be using 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. That actually helps to thicken up the apple. And to give it more apple flavor, we add in a 1/4 cup, or 4 ounces, I should say, of apple juice. Only 2 other little simple ingredients. Apple pie spice. Or you could use cinnamon and nutmeg and a few other things combined, but I find this to work just as easy. And a pinch of regular table salt. We're going to need a little bit of butter in the bottom of the pan to get the apples started and the brown sugar kind of mixing in with those apples, and we'll show you that in just a second. But that's all you need to get this tart up and running. All right, this takes little to no time and very little effort. There's not a whole lot of mixing, and in babysitting it, it goes really quick. Hope you're going to enjoy it. Let's go ahead and scoop the brown sugar, put it right into a bowl. Next, we're going to go ahead and we're going to peel our apples, and then we'll get those into the bowl as well. All right, let's go ahead and get our apples peeled. And we've got to slice our apples into thin slices. Like so. So you can get an idea of what those look like. Now that all my apples are sliced, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add them right to my bowl. Now you could do this right in the pan and skip the whole bowl step. Don't even worry about it. And I'm just going to toss them around. Now I'm just doing this because we're filming, but you could do this right in the pan. Just add the brown sugar in, get it mixed and incorporated with your apples. I've placed a few tablespoons of butter in my pan. I'm going to put it on to a medium to medium-high heat and let that butter melt. Now that my butter is pretty much melted, I'm going to go ahead and drop my apples right into the pan. Make sure I get all that brown sugar in there. Don't want to leave any of that goodness behind. And then here's where we can start to add in some apple pie spice. That's about a teaspoon to a teaspoon and a half of apple pie spice. If we think it needs a little more, we can always add a little more. This is where I'm going to put in a pinch of salt. Do not over salt, but I think apples can do with a pinch of salt. No problem at all. These are already starting to smell fantastic. Now let's not forget that apple juice. Remember, we need to get some apple juice in here because that also is adding to the flavor. So I'm going to go ahead and add my apple juice in here. And don't worry, it looks like a lot, but we're going to be putting cornstarch in here to thicken it up. Once it all comes to a boil, we can add the cornstarch in. And like I said, you could have mixed this all in the same pan. I just did it in a bowl to make it a little bit easier for you to see what was happening with those ingredients. All right, let's get that up to a boil, and then we'll go ahead and add in our cornstarch. That was 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. There's 1. Cornstarch is messy. It's just one of those messy ingredients because it's so powdery. There's 2. Let me get that all incorporated. Now, the other way you could do it is you could have mixed the cornstarch in with the apple juice and made a slurry and poured it in. I'm pretty confident that that's going to not leave any lumps. So I'm not too worried about it, but if you are, you could make a slurry of apple juice and cornstarch. And we're just going to let this cook down until the apples are soft, and we'll be back. All right, let's go ahead and get a little taste, and you can see how thick this has now become with that cornstarch in it. We're going to take a little taste and see if we need any more apple pie spice. That's delicious. All right, we're going to let that be. It's not icky sweet. That's one of the reasons why I like this recipe. All right, now here comes the tart part. Let's go ahead and get our pie crust unrolled. We're going to try and position it the best we can into the pan. Give it a little tug here and there to kind of set it up so that it's as even as possible. I'm not a baker, so you'll have to forgive me if it doesn't come out like it was in a pastry case. Notice we didn't have to do anything to the pan, just set it right down in there because I have a non-stick tart pan. And then we're going to go ahead and we're just going to pour our mixture right on the top. Make sure we get all of that wonderful juice in there. I'm going to scrape that out. Now, if you really want this to look beautiful, once the apples cool, before you put them in, you could kind of arrange them so that they're all going in the same direction. That's what you would see in a magazine. They would all look beautiful, facing the right way. And you could go ahead and do that. It's very impressive looking. People will say, oh, your tart was just gorgeous. See, it's not that hard to do. We're really only working with the outside layers right now to begin with. Oh, I made a little hole in my pie filling, but that's okay. It's a tart. The hard part is to try and keep your fingers out of it while you're working with it because it tastes so good. Now this is going to go ahead and go into the oven at 400 degrees for 10 minutes. 425 for 10 minutes, and then we're going to reduce the heat in the oven to 350 degrees, and then we will cook it for 30 minutes, and we'll show you our final product in a photograph. Thanks for watching. We'll show you our final product in a picture.